What's up, guys? Alexx and I in here for another episode of the Hot Corner podcast. Tyler thought working out was more important than chatting with us, so
That's
dude,
why I went earlier.
dude is small, so who cares?
No. He's fat as hell. We talked about it last night. The dude weighs 195. He's 5'8".
Damn.
I'm at 201, and then he proceeded to call me fat. I'm like,
Uh,
I'm 6 feet tall.
right. I'm 180, but I'm also like the skinny, weird build, but he's not. So
No, he's short and fat.
it's all that crumble cookie you fuckers eat.
Yeah, that's true.
You
I
can only
just
burn
got
so
done
much
stuffing my
doing
face with a
chest,
muffin.
guys.
Hey, I don't do chest. I do arms.
Right. So today we're going to talk about just the standings. It's going to be a quick episode, but we're going to talk about the standings, why the Timberwolves have been struggling so much, and what we want them to kind of change. And then I'm gonna throw out the trades that I talked with Tyler about to Alex and see what he thinks. So looking at the standings, Cleveland's still on the top of the East, 17-1. Boston's underneath them, 15-3, which is crazy to me that both of them are just that dominant this year. And then in the West, OKC is 13-4 and Golden State's 12-5. And we didn't think Golden State was going to be this dominant this early. So we'll wait and see how it comes into fruition the whole season. But I'm not gonna lie, like we talked about this a couple episodes ago. Like we didn't think they were gonna keep it up now, and now they still have. And if they just keep doing it, they're just gonna compete. I don't see them. I mean, it's hard because OKC is just so good. But if Golden State Golden State makes a decent trade offer, which I will talk to you about later down the road about who I think they should trade for, might be kind of hard because I didn't realize he's making 40 million now. But I think we chatted about this earlier. But yeah, I mean the standings, the West. I mean, there's two really shitty teams, and then the rest are competing. Besides Portland's 7-11, but I think you have the Sacramento Kings who are 8-10, and then you have OKC who's 13-4. So like that's not a huge gap. And then you have the East where there's about four or five teams, six teams to me that aren't really competing. So yeah,
Yeah, the
that's
Warriors doing this well, I think definitely caught me by surprise as well. Um, they're a team that's getting older. They just lost Klay Thompson. I mean, they replaced him with Buddy Hield, who's a fantastic three-point shooter. But you're not sure how well he's going to mesh with them. But so far, they've looked really good. He's been a little bit streakier, but we'll see if they can keep it going. And kind of like what we alluded to last week or 2 weeks ago, like the West is so good right now. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to be able to kind of keep pace. I would imagine they catch up with the Thunder now that Chet Holmgren's out, but I mean, they've still been playing pretty damn good too.
right. And I just pulled it up. So um, Andrew Wiggins is having a great season for them again.
Yes, he is.
He is shooting the highest 3-point percentage of his career. So that's huge for them. He's not averaging, the 20 points that he used to, and he's not taking as many shots, obviously, but he's shooting 41% from three. He is
That's really good.
he's been like a 35, 36 guy. And actually, ever since he got to Golden State, besides his season last year, he's been shooting around 38 to 40. So,
Still not bad, but he was definitely more of a high volume scorer at that point.
right. And even, I mean, when he was in Minnesota, he just wasn't, he was just young. He just wasn't making as many shots. So it's just crazy. Um, yeah, he was taking about 20 attempts a game in 2016, and he was shooting
Jeez, that's
45% and 35% from three. So, I mean, yes, there's a lot more attempts compared to his 12.6 that he's taken now. But
right.
I mean, dude, if when he's taking his shots, they're going in, and that's a huge, huge thing for them.
That's what you need out of him too.
Right. He's not, and I think he's lost a little bit of a step. He's not the aggressive type guy that he used to be. He actually used to be mainly just an inside scorer. Like
He would slash a lot.
right. He would go attack the rim, and I mean, you're either getting dunked on or he's doing a post fade and making it. So he wasn't much
Yep.
of a shooter from the outside. Now he is. So I think they saw something. They knew what they had in Andrew Wiggins. Last year was just an anomaly of how bad he was, just because one, he lost his dad. Like no one's
Yep.
gonna play well when that happens. Like it's just unfortunate for him. So yeah, I'm super happy to see him succeeding. I know we had a little animosity when he went to the Golden State Warriors. It's like, oh great, they're gonna tap into his potential. And
Yep.
they have. They literally have. He's not averaging 20, but he's doing the best he needs to be. So,
And his defense is above average now too. Like he's
right,
turned into a solid wing defender. Like
right,
he's definitely not top tier by any means, but he's somebody who will put in that effort.
right. Another team that's really surprised me, which I don't know, I feel like there were always talks about this team being really good because they were so young 2 years ago, but the Houston Rockets have been
Yeah.
unbelievable. And I think it just goes to show like when you have these young, talented guys that you draft, you just got to give them time. And I know you and I argued about the Sacramento Kings, but to me, it's different. They don't have young guys, they have the old guys that they're trying to wait on. These guys, all of them are within 22 to 25. Besides
Yeah,
Fred,
minus maybe like Dylan Brooks.
yeah, Fred VanVleet's 30, but their top two scorers both aged of 22. So you have Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, and which is crazy because both of them have been in the league for 3 years already, and they're only 22.
Yeah, right.
So I think their defense. I don't know if you've watched. They're unbelievable.
I haven't watched a bunch of their games, but I've definitely seen their defense. I'm looking right now. They're number one in rebounding and number three in offensive uh or defensive points per game. Sorry, like
Right.
that's wild. 105. It's pretty good.
It's crazy. Yeah, they're sitting at a defensive rating of second in the league, and I think the best way to talk about that is their guys off the bench actually play significant amount of time for their defense. You have Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Dylan Brooks, and even a guy like Cam or Reed Shepard and Jock Landell. They're coming in as backup pieces and just playing strong quality minutes. That doesn't even talk about the other guys that they've brought in who are like 20 years old, like Cam Whitmore and and then Reed Shepard, who's 20 years old. Like that's insane. Their whole team is super young.
Yeah, and they're super balanced, and you're starting to see that with Sengun too. Like he's turning into a monster,
Right.
absolute monster. He's been on a heater for the past week or two.
Right. There's not much to talk about with the East as the number 5 seed is 7-7. That would put for the West, that would put them 13th, and that's the Miami Heat. So it just goes to show the difference between the two leagues is just significant.
So I don't know if there's truth to this. I haven't looked into this, but there's been talk around like Reddit and the NBA circles in there that the NBA is mulling over getting rid of conferences entirely and just doing the top 16 teams. And I'm like, I can get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in all, it's just going to be scheduling wise is like Um, how are we going to set up the schedule if there's no conferences? How are we going to make it sufficient for players so that they don't have to travel from LA all the way across to Boston in a 1 day span? Because that puts
Yep.
a big toll on guys, and that's a reason why a lot of back to backs some guys don't play is because they have to travel, and it
Right.
just they make too much money, I guess.
Joel Embiid.
Paul George.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Pandemic P.
Other than that, there's not much that's changed around the NBA. We're coming to the circle of like which teams are going to sell and which teams are going to buy. And I think a lot of the West teams are going to buy. Even the teams that aren't in the playoffs right now for the West, like Sacramento, Minnesota, they're going to buy. San Antonio, they're going to buy. So that 10, 11, and 12 are going to buy players. And that's just going to make the West even stronger. As the East, I mean, I look at Indianapolis, they're the seventh seed. That's puke to me. That's not they haven't
They're a
played. they haven't played well enough for me to even think that they should be a 7 seed.
They are a very bad 7 seed.
Right. I
They're a
mean,
7 seed that's going to get swept if they limped in.
right. I would honestly take Detroit and Brooklyn over Indianapolis, like
100%.
in a 1 game playoff game over
Yep,
them.
I would too.
Obviously, 7 game series, I think Indianapolis takes it just because they have the experience and Tyrese Halliburton knows how to control the floor during that time. I mean, they made a hell of a run last year.
They did.
So I think just giving them time, hopefully we'll see a lot better play. But someone that I was listening to on a podcast, and it's a Indianapolis like Pacer fan who made their own podcast. They've been doing it for a couple of years now, but they were talking about the difference between what this team was in the first half of last year and the second half of last year. The big difference was when they brought in Pascal Siakam, they slowed down. Like
Oh, sure.
Indianapolis, Indianapolis was just running the floor because they had so many guys who could just keep on sprinting. Like Tyrese is a very high paced, space and pace kind of guy. He's always been a high level shooter, but when you have Pascal, who's kind of, I don't know, like Pascal can shoot, but his main game is to like get in the mid range and kind of dominate the paint a little bit. Um,
He's much
it's
more methodical too.
right, and I think another thing too, they don't have any centers. All their centers got hurt besides Miles Turner. Um, Isaiah Jackson got hurt. James Wiseman literally played 1 game, and then Moses Brown just isn't very good. So I think
Yep.
right now they're struggling on the rebound side of things. I mean, their highest rebounder right now is Miles Turner with 7.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I mean, assist wise, Tyrese is still sitting at 8.8. But other than that, Andrew Nimhard, who hasn't played very much, is at 4. And TJ McConnell, who plays 18 minutes a game, is at 4. So they also don't get very many assists, meaning it's kind of like that hockey thing. It's like the assist to the assist, but it's taking too long to develop. So
Correct.
last year, if I take a look at their team from last year, um, the assist numbers went way up from or way down from last year because they were running and it was literally one pass score. Like now it's like they have to get 3 passes just to find an open man.
Well, they were the number one offense for like most of the year last year, weren't they? By like a fucking mile.
Yeah, and now they're sitting at league average at 15. With
Yeah, you give Tyrese the ball and you say you sprint as far as you can down to the hoop and he'll find you.
right
Just run straight. You don't even need to move. Just or move like laterally. Just
core 4, so Pascal, Benedict Mather, and Tyrese and Miles Turner have played all right. I mean, Tyrese hasn't, don't get me wrong, but he'll pick it up. It's fine. Um,
he should figure it out. Yes.
but I mean, no one else has played all that good. Like Andrew Nimhard was a big key piece last year. Same with Aaron Nesmith, and well, they haven't played very much. They've played a total of 13 games. Like that's not going to help them. So, all
Yeah,
right,
I don't think the East really has many sleeper teams. You're either solidly in the playoffs or you should be rebuilding, but unfortunately your conference is that bad you're not rebuilding,
right, and
i.e. the Atlanta Hawks.
I don't know what you do. Like Miami, let's
Miami's a
just be
good one.
for real. They're not going to do anything this year. No one wants Jimmy Butler right now. He's playing horrible. Bam Adebayo is doing all right, but you're not going to trade him. So what
No.
do? You're in kind of this purgatory, and right now Milwaukee, who's 8-9, will pick it up, but like they're also hurt. Chris Middleton's coming back, so that's going to help them get into that higher trajectory. But Orlando, who's played very well without Paulo, I don't
Yeah.
like. I watched them against Charlotte last night. It was ugly. I think the game in general, like there was a total of like 150 points scored between both teams combined. That's not very pretty.
That's pretty
Hey,
low for today's standards.
right. And it ended up being 95-84. So at the end, which still isn't great. That's below what an NBA game comes out to be. And if you can't score that much against a Charlotte team that's really not that great at defense, like something needs to happen.
Right. Yep.
So other than that, I mean, yeah, like we said, not much has changed. I want to get into the Minnesota Timberwolves. Um, for a team that we were so high on coming into the season with that trade, I knew it was going to be a molding period because that's how it was when we brought in Rudy. And so I watched another video specifically about the dynamic between Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert has been horrible, just like
Yep.
the first year of Cat and Rudy, because two big men who one shouldn't have the ball in Rudy Gobert because he's not really that much of a scorer, but that's how we succeeded a lot last year was him getting like 15, 16 points and doing his job on defense. He was taking that next step up because he was sealing off smaller defenders and getting to the paint and actually making his shots.
Yep.
Right now, Julius Randle is not having it with him. Just does not want to give him the ball, which I get. He's not known as a scoring center, so why should you? You're known as the scorer, and Julius Randle, you can shoot the ball well, you can drive the paint well. Unfortunately, Julius, you're only shooting 36% from three, which is not bad. It's about league average, but we need you to be better than league average because that's what Cat was last year.
Yep.
So Naz Reid has done really well, which he plays about 25 minutes a game. He's basically a starter because, 5 minutes throughout the first quarter, he'll come in. Um,
Yep.
he's also not averaging, I think, as much as he was last year. It's about the same. So I guess he's doing just the same that he was last year. But the another thing too is Anthony Edwards is taking 11 3-pointers a game.
And shooting like what, 42%? I think that
43.
number's okay. I was gonna say I think that number's coming out the past few days, but
Yeah, 43%, which good for him. But I think there was a big difference between last year and this year in that he's just not as aggressive. I mean, we haven't seen a single dunk highlight yet. And we saw like five at this time last year.
yep.
So I don't know. I enjoy seeing Ant being the facilitator and the guy who just dominates the inside by one attacking you. He is so much stronger than the average guard. Like I think that's
100%.
that is way better than him trying to space the floor out and shoot a contested shot each time. Like his shots, I don't know if you watch, they're not open. A lot of the time they really aren't. They're very contested.
Yeah, and he still does have that quickness too, where now you got people kind of playing up on him on the perimeter, and now he can take either a jab step or go bare screen. He can go around. He can still attack. So that's kind of the cool thing is now he's finally starting to get that 3-point rhythm. Now people are going to have to respect not only that, but the fact that he can blow by you. He can stop. He can still stop. On a dime at the mid range and hit that, or he can go right by you. So he's turning into one of those like multi-tiered scorers that 2 years ago was basically okay. He's either going to drive past, he hit a mid range, but he's only going to shoot 33% from three. So let him take those. So it's cool to see that development, but his defensive presence is really taking a hit this year.
Right. I think the another piece too is Mike Conley has just played really bad this year. Like really
Yes. Yep.
bad. He played really well last year, just being able to not turn the ball over, which he's still not turning the ball over, but he's only shooting 32% from the field, 33% from three. And we have guys like Nikhil Alexander Walker and Dante DiVincenzo who are coming and playing point guards, but they're not point guards. Like
Right.
this was the whole situation that me and Tyler talked about is I'm getting so frustrated with the fact that we have an 8-man rotation every single game. Yes, Rob Dillingham's playing a little bit more now since Mike Conley's been back and forth on the injury list, but he's only getting like 3, 4 shots a game when he
Right.
plays. We drafted these young guys who were unbelievable scorers in college, and Terrence Shannon Jr., who was unbelievable at the University of Illinois, Rob Dillingham, who is a Duke prodigy, Kentucky prodigy, sorry, not Duke, still a blue team, whatever.
Same thing.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Kentucky prodigy, like they were unbelievable scorers, but we're not giving them the minutes to do that. Like what was the point of that? Like
Right.
you're gonna sit them on the bench to learn. Well, the guy they're learning from is shooting 32% from the field. Like I don't know what to tell
Correct.
you. And then you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was a great pickup, by the way, but we have the same person in Dante DiVincenzo. Like,
Yep.
what was the point of the trade if we brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
Well, and an interesting thing too that I think I was reading about this the other day. Um, like Steve Kerr was talking about like one of the items of success or for why Golden State is having success, and that he's like, well, we don't have an eight-man rotation. We got 10 or 11 guys right now getting in and out. Like that's a huge key to our success right now. We were touted as one of the deepest teams in the league, and we got people like Dillingham, we got people like Terrence Shannon, like even Jalen Clark. Like we have guys who will go out there and certainly give more effort than the starters do from time to time. Like why aren't we utilizing that? Like now is the best time. Like get them the experience. Like
Yeah.
get them out there. Stop giving them garbage minutes. Like
So
it's frustrating.
one thing I brought up to Tyler last week during our trade conversation was if we're not going to use the young guys, then let's just trade those middling guys, aka PJ Dozier, who's 28, Luka Garza is 26, Josh Minott, who's 22. I think Josh Minott's a wonderful player. I think he has a
Yeah.
ton of potential to be actually the best out of those three, and Terrence, Rob, and Josh. But unfortunately, we just refuse to use them. So let's turn a page here and either compete and start bringing in winning basketball, because I think that's the problem is we don't have guys, or we don't have those vets off the bench who are winners. Don't get me wrong, Dante DiVincenzo, yes, they are winners. He was a winner in college. He's a winner in the NBA. I get it. But Naz Reid has only known Minnesota. He's the longest tenured Minnesotan Timberwolf. We have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who jumped around from team to team, was mainly a Pelican, I believe. Yeah, he was a Pelican
And
for a couple years, and then played for the Jazz. Like,
Jazz, not Denver. Okay. Yep.
so he didn't ever really play competitive or like winning basketball. So I brought the idea, and I want to hear what your opinion was. There's a team who's playing horrible, absolutely horrible. We've talked about this. We made fun of them today. The Philadelphia 76ers. They have played horrible, but they have vets who are willing to kind of slide in and help with this team. And I was thinking, now there's a couple guys on this team that are key or like useful. Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, and Kelly Oubre Jr. Those three names are vet guys who aren't making a ton. I think the guy who makes the most is Kyle Lowry and $7 million, which they're all 1 year contracts. We
Yeah, I
can
was going to
get,
say Lowry, I think, is expiring too.
they're all 1 year contracts. So we don't have a point guard. We don't have a backup point guard. Why not bring a guy like Kyle Lowry who does not turn the ball over? Literally does not turn the ball over. He can come in and play 15, 16 minutes, just like what he's doing. Well, he's playing 24 minutes for Philadelphia, but he's coming in not scoring. He's just not turning the ball over. That's all we need is a guy to not turn the ball over. So we bring him in. You bring in a guy, either Caleb Martin or Kelly Oubre. They both will just be wing defenders who can shoot the three at a average shooting percentage. I would rather have Caleb Martin. They're both the same age. They both do the exact same thing. Kelly Oubre has just been really bad at shooting the three this year, at shooting it at 26%. So I'd rather have Caleb Martin, who's shooting 31% and can kind of help us on the defensive side. I think another thing too is our defense in our secondary just isn't great, you know.
Yep.
Um, so you do that. You do Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, and a second round pick, and you trade them a young guy like Josh Minott because they would be interested just because of the fact that they aren't competing right now. And
Yep.
maybe they can tap into this 22-year-old to help solidify their team a little bit. So then they can get rid of Kelly Oubre Jr., slide in Josh Minott, and their starting lineup next year would be Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Josh Minott, whoever. I think it's Gershon Yabusele. and then, or no, Paul George, and then Joel Embiid. That would be a good lineup for them. Like I
That'd be pretty solid, yeah.
for them, they would do it, I think, immensely. Now are the Timberwolves willing to do it? No,
I would say probably not. No, I don't mind the sound of that.
right.
Um,
I think it would just be nice to have another backup point guard because right now we don't have one. We only
yeah,
have Rob Dillingham and Mike Conley, but if we're not playing Dillingham, then we might as well find someone to fill that void.
yeah. I'm of the mind like we just start playing Dillingham more.
Right.
Just like do it. Like
It's the only way he's going to get better.
right. And now again, now is the best time. Like Conley's struggling. He's on and off the injury report, as you had said. Like DiVincenzo's not playing great, nor is he a true point guard.
Right.
Nas fantastic, but again, not really a true point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Like just give him the keys and be like, here you go make something happen.
So I was telling Tyler this too because yes, it doesn't sound very appealing, like of bringing in two guys, but listen to the starting lineup here. So your starting lineup is Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, um, Jada McDaniels, and then you have Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert. Okay, that's been the starting five the whole year. Then your backups would be Kyle Lowry, Dante DiVincenzo, Nikhil Alexander Walker, and then you could run with anyone. You could run with Joe Ingles. You could run with PJ Dozier. You could run with Caleb Martin, and then Naz Reid. That sounds to me so much better in an NBA standpoint than not having those young guys playing.
I know this is going to sound a little facetious, and it is partially meant to, but that's almost another starting lineup right there.
Right.
Nas could be the starting power forward or center on half the teams. Maybe not Kyle Lowry because he's a little bit older, but Caleb Barton certainly could be a good piece on a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
Nah could be a really good piece, like an old Trenton Hassel kind of player where just more offense than him, but like a defensive stud. Like
Right. I
that's
think
not a bad team.
and Nikhil's done really well by kind of playing that backup PG role, but
Yeah,
he's not mainly a point guard. And same with Dante DiVincenzo. But if we the problem with this is Dante's not making his shots. That's
right.
probably because he has to bring up the ball every single time he's out there.
He's
Besides
more
when
of a
he's
catch and shoot guy, right?
exactly instead of well, unless Anthony Edwards is out there, then he's bringing up the ball, which I get
Correct.
that, but we don't need that. We can let Anthony Edwards play 34, 35 minutes a game instead of 38 and bring in a backup point guard to take up some of that time. Yes, it does sound kind of tough to have two point guards who are both the age of 37, but I don't know what you're going to do if you're not going to play Dillingham, who's 20 years old and looks and can be, a struggle, but can look great at some time. Like then you might as well just bring in another guy who's 37 to help kind of define him.
But yeah, then you might as well try and legitimately win now, which we that was kind of the Julius Randle trade. Like we want to win now, but we also want to win 4 years down the road too.
Right. I
It's like,
think
well, if we just hemorrhaged our 2 year window to save ourselves for 4 years down the road, that's not a trade I'd be willing to make.
yeah. I mean I don't know what they are expecting. Are they just going to sit there and imagine it to just turn around until it's too
I mean,
late?
Tim Conley's had an answer to literally everything. I mean, a lot of these, everybody was hypercritical of the Rudy Gobert trade. Everybody was, I mean, not as critical, but like the Mike Conley D'Lo trade. It's like, all right, well, yeah, it's an okay trade. It's worked out well. Getting Rob Dillingham, drafting him, like, so I definitely have faith that this will work out. But I'm curious as to what the four-dimensional chess he's playing really is.
Right. And we haven't heard anything. Like we haven't heard
Nothing.
anything from Chris Finch, like or from Conley. Like what are we supposed to expect here as Minnesota fans?
Yep.
At least
Especially after last year.
me as a Chicago Bulls fan, I know we're trading Zach LaVine and trading Nikola Vucevic. Like that
Yep.
was they literally came out and said that last week. We are going to trade them. We just have to find the right team. And it's like,
Isn't
oh,
Uh, Pat Williams is on that list too.
Uh,
Am I making that up?
I sure hope he gets traded because he's looked pretty bad. He's not. He is the most boring person to watch.
Okay, I thought I saw his name kind of float around the spaces of Reddit, but that's Reddit, so
Right. And I wouldn't mind, honestly, I wouldn't mind a trade because right now we have Julian Phillips and Matas Buzelis, who, I mean, they're both 1 year rookie guys that have looked a lot more explosive than Pat Williams.
right.
And Pat's only been in the league for 4 years and he's still slower than most guys. So he
Yeah.
he's dude, he's just so bad. It's not fun to watch him. He's very stationary most of the time, and he has no dribble moves. He has zero shot creation. He is literally a sit there, wait for the ball and shoot it, or play defense and hopefully he gets like an open cut. That's it. So
Yeah, that's really fitting for today's NBA.
right. It's hasn't been fun to watch for Pat Williams, but wish him the best. If he does get traded, I really don't mind it. Um, so yeah, that kind of wraps up the talk a little bit about Minnesota and the standings. I did want to talk to you about some of the trades that I brought up with Tyler. Let's see. So the one trade that I truly thought was interesting, and I don't know if it would work, but it was a Laurie Markkinen and a Walker Kessler deal to Golden State. Now, this was kind of the tough part. I didn't realize Laurie Markkinen is now making almost 50 million a year.
Yeah, he's a max guy, right?
Yeah, they gave him the max contract, and then Kessler is only making about 3 million. So let's say they have to make up $53 million. There is four guys on the Golden State Warriors team that make up that money. I want to know who would say yes if this was the case. You send Larry Markkinen, Walker Kessler, and you get back Andrew Wiggins, DeAnthony Melton, which, yes, I know he's hurt, but if the team says yes to the trade, they can accept it for an injured player. Jonathan Kuminga, Kevon Looney, a 26 first and a 28 first. I
I
think I think if you're the Warriors, it's a tricky trade because you want, yes, Wiggins has played really well this year, but I think you want a little bit more out of your team.
a little bit more
Does
like oomph.
does Laurie Markkinen kind of turn the page for that?
I think that would be solid. I would be hesitant on if Utah would want to take that, but I guess I also don't know what their short-term goals really are. I would imagine rebuilding.
Right. They're 4-10, I think it said.
So I think unless they're looking to do that and then somehow flip Wiggins later this year or in the off season, I could see it. But yeah, I don't know. I think Laurie Markkinen would be a solid fit with Golden State.
I think the big question mark for that trade is Jonathan Kuminga. Would you
Yeah,
think Utah Jazz would take this player in Jonathan Kuminga and make him into a better player than what he is right now, giving him the keys to the offense? Right now, they have John Collins and Laurie Markkinen. John Collins is actually playing really well this year compared to his past few years that he was playing. But Jonathan Kuminga is not in the long run. We all know that. So, are you willing to dump John Collins and substitute him out for Jonathan Kuminga and give him the keys?
honestly, like if I was a GM, I would probably give him a shot because Kuminga's definitely shown signs of brilliance.
Right.
Like he's shown flashes of like really really good players, but they also said the same thing about oh man, I'm forgetting his name. The the guy the Lakers didn't want to trade ever, but now he plays for Utah. Talon, no,
Oh, Horton Tucker.
Horton Tucker, yeah.
He plays for the Bulls now.
Oh yeah, that was something I remember a few years ago. Lakers were like, nope, like he's our guy. He didn't pan out, so you're taking that risk with Kuminga, but
Right. Yeah, I don't know. The Utah Jazz right now are kind of in that in between. They have super young and super old, or I wouldn't say super old, but young and a little bit older. They're going to trade Laurie if, well, I guess if they gave him the max, they won't trade him, but they're going to trade John Collins. They're going to trade Colin Sexton. I think they're going to get rid of Walker Kessler because they really like Kyle Filipowski. He was a Duke prodigy. He's actually played really well. I've watched a couple Jazz games. He brings way more energy than Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler looks like my grandma running on that court. And then they have Bryce Sensabaugh and a couple of other guys like Taylor Hendricks, Drew Eubanks. So I think Walker Kessler will be gone. I think John Collins will be gone. I think Colin Sexton will be gone, and I think Jordan Clarkson will be gone. So that brings out all the old guys are gone,
Yeah,
and
you're cleaning
then
house.
you just have Larry Markkinen to build around. So I think if you're going to build around Larry Markkinen, he's shown to be a decent shooter. You have to find guys who can facilitate the floor and play good defense because he doesn't play defense.